physical today and for dedicating your time to guide us and inspire our participants. And then, to all our participants present here today, a very heartfelt congratulations to each and every one of you. Out of many proposals that were submitted in the proposal stage, you have managed to get in the top 50. So congratulations again. This is a remarkable achievement, and you guys should be very proud of yourselves. And so today's session is another important step in your journey, and it is an opportunity to refine your ideas, gain practical insights, and strengthen your approach as you move forward in this challenge. So please feel encouraged to ask questions, share your ideas, and clarify your doubts. Please make this session as interactive as possible. So without further delay, I would now like to invite Ms. Chamatka Jaisekar to take us through today's session.
Record, okay. I don't have a contagious disease. I am not going to bite, so please fill in the front rows. Otherwise, it's a waste of space. This way, guys. This way. Switch. Whoever who remains at the furthest back on the sides will have to come into the front. So come and secure a seat fast. There's 5 seats here. So, how about the 4 of you come here? Come in front. Come in front. I'm being for real. This way. Come here. A port. Do you really need it? Why would you need it? You won't need it. You won't need to use devices. Come here. No, you don't need it. Yeah, sit down. Okay, great. And can you guys also come to the front? Yeah, come. You can sit here. 2 of you can sit here. Come. And then, yeah, the other 2 can sit there. Yeah. Oh, can you, if you move my book, somebody can sit there also. Yeah, you can sit here. In front. All the way. All the way. No, not that row, guys. The one in front. Nice. Okay, now we're set. Now we're good to go. Okay, so we'll take it from the top. Okay. Good morning, guys. Oh my gosh. Let's try that again. Good morning, guys. Okay, better. Not good, but better. All right. So today we are going to conduct, technically it's a combination of stage 4 and 5 of the SquareHub sessions for the Spark program. And if you remember, I don't think you remember, to be honest, we started off something called the baseboard. it's a structure where you get to learn the business, the business process, right? How to make a business plan. So we did a little, like about 25% of that model already. We covered that part in the previous sessions. And today, hopefully, we'll get to complete it. If not, we'll have to have an online session and do the rest, okay? So I highly encourage you to take notes, take pictures or whatever of the slides, because we won't be able to share the slides, but we will be sharing the, some of these things require you to fill a table or something like that, right? So we'll share those templates, but not the slides. Okay, right, so this is where we are at. Ideally, this is supposed to be in 2 parts, or like in 2 days, but we have to crunch it to 1 day. Hopefully we can finish it. If not, we'll have to go to a part 2, right? Okay, so we'll just, okay, straight skip to this part. To refresh your memory, this was what we started with, the base board. Base here stands for business, approach, and structure elements, right? And it has 4 main parts. There's the envisioning stage, where you think about your idea. This is where we did our ideation workshop, right? And then you have the assessment phase, where we actually did research and found whether this idea is viable as a business. So you have to be past all of that now. And now we're going into the evolving stage, where we actually think about how do we build a business out of the idea. And going into operating, after you plan your business, then how do you start operating the business? How do you actually start actioning it? Okay, so those are the 4 stages. Today we hope to cover evolving and operating. Okay, all clear? Right. So, how we usually do this session is we let you guys, fill out all of these sections as we go on. But just for me to get an idea, how many teams are here? Are any of you all on the same team? Can you, okay, is this a team? No. That's 1 team, and then 2. Okay, let's say like 1 representative of the team. Can you raise your hand? Just 1 person. I'm confused. You guys are confusing me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 15. Damn, 15 out of 50. But that also means you have only either 1 person in the whole team or like maximum 2 people, right? Oh, why is Nathan calling? Okay, so, Nathan. Okay. So because of that, I don't think there's a point in filling these things right now, because you probably can't do it on your own. And this is probably something you want to discuss with your team members, right? So we are going to kind of go through the content and give you all some space in between to ask questions, or like give or ask advice on different ideas you have. So we'll do it like that, instead of giving you time to fill the different parts. Because I think realistically you guys can't do it in this state with just 2 people or 1 person on the team, right? So that's why we are just going to go through each section, and then we'll let you sink that in, maybe on your own, jot down some ideas and ask questions. Okay? We really wanted to make it very much a workshop format, but with the given situation, it's a bit difficult, so that's why we decided to go in this format. Okay, so the first part of the baseboard, technically the 3rd part of the baseboard that we are going to do today is the evolving section. That has 6 subsections. First thing is setting goals, and when we say setting goals, it's setting goals for an entire company, right? And then the value proposition, marketing and sales, operations, go-to-market, and financial. When we talk about these 6 segments, we are talking strategy. We are not necessarily thinking about, this is not the execution part, this is planning for what you're going to do in your business. So, all strategy, right? So, in this, we have specified what models or canvases we are using within each of these sections. For the value proposition, we will be telling you about something called the value canvas. And then for marketing and sales, we are talking about the marketing funnel. And for financial strategy, there's a profit and loss diagram, the very basic ones. Okay? So let's go to the first section, which is setting goals. Right. Have you all heard about the SMART framework? I'm pretty sure you have. I think it's one of the first things you'll learn in engineering, at least I did. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So you need to first think of your business and make your plans or goals for the next, for this year, for the first year in operation, then for the next 3 years in operation, and ideally up to 5 years in operation, right? But at a startup level, it's even okay to start with the first year and the 3-year plan, okay? So think about, so this will really set the aspiration or the, or your direction for your business, right? So starting off with specific, okay? So the goal has to exactly specify what you need to achieve. You can't say, I am going to increase revenue. That's not specific enough. You have to say, I am going to, from this business, I am going to increase revenue from Sri Lanka by this percentage. Okay? Specific and measurable kind of goes hand in hand. The moment you make a goal measurable, it also becomes specific, right? There has to be a number or a way or a matrix that allows you to measure that goal. If you just say increase revenue, then you don't know how you're going to measure it. How are you going to say, oh, I achieved this? Just because you increase the revenue by 100 rupees, does that make it a goal? No, right? So you have to say, if it's revenue, then are you going to measure it by a percentage? Or are you going to double it, triple it? That has to be mentioned in the goal itself. Okay? And then it has to be achievable. Anyone can make goals, but the whole point is to achieve it at the end of the day, right? So it has to be a realistic goal. It's simple as that. Okay? It has to be realistic and achievable. And then it obviously has to be relevant. Now, as a founder, you have to have a vision for your business. And the goals you set have to be relevant to that vision, and it also has to be relevant to the business. Okay? If you are going to do a non-profit, then increasing revenue might not really be the main thing. It's probably not even relevant. Then it has to be measured in terms of impact. So, again, that's what's relevant. And then time bound. Last thing, all your goals have to have a deadline. Tasks without deadline just does not happen, because then you don't know how to prioritize, right? So you have to say, in the next 3 years, I am going to triple my revenue. Okay? So when you're setting goals, all of these 5 criteria have to be met. Because you guys already have learned about this part, I am going to go to the next, which is still within the same topic. Okay? So, like I said, why are we even setting goals? It's very easy for you to get carried away with your ideas, start somewhere, and then completely go off the rails. So to be focused, you have to have your goals, the mission and vision straight. You actually, before you even start setting the goals, you have to start with your vision and mission. Okay? And it's an overused word, I know. If you go to a company website, everybody has a fancy vision, mission statement. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense. Even the employees doesn't know what that is. So it can't be like that, okay? And there's a very clear difference between the vision and the mission. So we look at the vision first, right? The vision will tell you what you're going to achieve in the far future, like what's out there, okay? And it's a very, it doesn't have to necessarily look achievable right now. It doesn't even have to be too realistic looking right now. It's a very aspirational thing. See, it's overreaching, long-term objective for your company. That's the big, big picture that you want to someday go towards, right? And when you're writing the vision, don't just say you want to achieve this. Instead, you have to say why. Like, talk about impact from your company or product. This is the kind of impact our company wants to make. You don't have to put timelines for vision. It's not time-bound. Unlike goals, you don't have to make it smart. It can be a little vague, but it's like your dream for the company, right? And then mission has to be a bit more specific. That's what you do now, and why, and to whom. A mission is usually what your customers would see. Like the tagline usually communicates the mission of the company in most cases. So let's say if it's insurance, then we're talking about making the quality of life of Sri Lankans better, the Sri Lankan people better. So who are we serving? Sri Lankans. And what do we want to do now to make the quality of life better? Again, it doesn't have to necessarily be measurable or time-bound. But it has to clearly, like when a customer reads your mission statement, they have to know, oh, this is the benefit I'm getting. Okay? And it has to obviously link to the vision. And you see how the mission statement can change over time. If you achieve, because it's a bit short term compared to a vision. When you achieve that, you can expand the scope of the mission. Okay? And again, you have to focus on how. How are you going to reach your goal? Your big vision, that's what you're addressing with the mission. Okay? So, again, to sum up, vision is very aspirational, very long-term, very far-reaching. But a mission is a bit more focused. You're looking at how you're going to achieve your vision and also what value you're giving to your immediate clients. Once these two things are done, you can go into your goals. Goals can be short-term or long-term. It can be daily, monthly, quarterly, yearly. It's up to you. Okay? And once you set goals, then comes milestones. You can break it down to granular level, but for the moment, what you need to focus on, especially for your presentations, is having that vision and mission. That's really important. Communicating that will show the audience and the judges that this has potential, and you have identified that potential. That's why this part is important. Okay? That's honestly all for the setting goals part. Any questions on this? No? Do you all want a moment to, like, I don't know, write things down? All good? Okay. Right, now this part, I know, oh, actually it's not that bad. Okay, you can see it. This is an extremely important part of the process of planning your business. Everything depends on what value you're creating for your customers. So this is where we figure that out. We call this the value canvas. We'll send these templates to you guys later, so I highly recommend, even if you do nothing else, do this one. Sit with your team and fill in the value canvas. It's extremely important. So on the left-hand side, you see the value proposition, and on the right-hand side, you see the customer segments. We always start with the right-hand side. Left, right, yeah. We always start with the right-hand side, okay? And the first thing before you go ahead and do the value canvas is you have to figure out your customer segments. For example, say, let's take Uber for example. Say Uber doesn't exist and I'm going to invent it right now, and I'm thinking about my customer segments. For Uber, who are the customers? Can someone just shoot out ideas? Who do we consider as customers for Uber? Sorry? Yeah, people who commute. Right? Who wants to find a ride? Is that all? Who else uses Uber? The drivers. For Uber, drivers are also customers. There's a cut for them there also, right? Exactly. Who else? If you only think about the transport part, it's the drivers and the people who are using, who are riders. Okay? But if you think of food delivery, then who else? You tell me, guys. I know you guys know the answer. Just say it. I'm just hearing. You guys need to speak up. Yeah? Who are the customers in food delivery? The delivery guy, the people who are hungry, and the restaurants, right? That's three. That's three segments. So when you make a product, it's not always straightforward. It's not always just one type of customers. You will have multiple. Say you make a medical product, even then, let's say, I think last time, I can't remember, some team who came to the finals, they did the urine bag, like some automation there, I remember. In that case, who are the customer segments? Is it just the sick person who needs it then? The pharmaceutical companies, doctors, and right? And even like healthcare officials sometimes. Because that business can be done either B2B or B2C, like from business to business or business to customer. In a B2B perspective, hospitals are also their customer segment. But in a B2C perspective, just the individual person who wants to buy it is also their customer. And when you're talking about individuals, it could be a doctor buying it for a patient, or it could be the patient himself going and buying it from a pharmacy, right? So you have to think of all of those angles when you come to this point. You have to have your customer segments ready. We are going to do a more detailed session on customer segmentation a little later. But for now, the thing you need to know is you have to identify your customer segments first before you come here. Okay? So in this case, the examples on the slides are very simple. It's all based on a food cart. Like, the assumption is there's a food cart outside the campus, and you're planning the food cart business. That's the assumption for the examples, right? And once you figure out the customer segments, you have to do the value canvas for each customer segment. Let's say Uber delivery, I would do one value canvas in the perspective of riders. And I'll do it a second time in the perspective of people who drive the vehicles. Okay, you have to do it twice because you're going to give different value to different segments, right? So the same value. So you have to think in both perspectives, right? So you have to first fill in the right-hand side of the canvas first. Yeah? So on the top, one-third of the circle, you have gains. Oh, no, we'll start with this. Customer jobs and needs. That's the first thing. What is the need, first of all, for your product? What's the need? What's the primary thing that you're trying to solve? Or like, what's the primary, it's not a pain point, but rather it's a need that customers have. That's what you write on this side of the circle, right? For example, if it's a food cart outside of the campus, the primary need is just quick and affordable meals, because you're selling to students, right? Quick and affordable. That's the main need. And then on the top, it's the gains and wants. What benefits or positive outcomes are the customers looking for? These can be secondary things to the basic thing you're trying to solve. Okay? So for example, healthy meals, because that's hard to come by for students. And convenience, fast delivery, convenient location. All of those things are important, but still secondary to the very core thing you're trying to solve, which is quick and affordable. And then, in the bottom, you have pains and fears. What challenges are these customers facing that your product can solve? So in this case, there's a struggle for students to find healthy food. And there's a struggle for students because they don't have enough time to cook for themselves. Right? And the options that are nearby might not be affordable. All of those are the pain points you're trying to solve. Okay? So first, you fill out this part. This will help you understand your customer better. And after that, the left-hand side is a mirror of the circle over here. Your needs, the customer's needs, map to products and services. Okay? There you say, what does your business offer to help your customers complete their job? Basically, what are you providing to help them achieve their need? Okay? So in this case, the food cart gives cheap food. Okay? It's cheap and it's nutritious. But it's not just that. You say what exactly you're doing. You're going to give healthy sandwiches or salads, or whatever. So you specify how you're solving this need for the customer. And then on the top, how do you solve the wants for the customer? So here you say, what does your product or service elevate for your customer? Like what does it give extra, or like what's the extra benefit that solves the wants? Okay, so healthier than fast food, there's quick delivery, or there's a pre-order system so that they can get it really quick, things like that. And then you have the bottom part which mirrors pain points. How is your product going to create positive outcomes for the customer? How are they taking away the pain points, right? Yeah, the food cart has something like a rotating menu. So it's not the same thing every day. There's a variety. And then there's fresh ingredients, so healthy, right? So all of that, you need to, what you do to give value, you write on the left-hand side, and what you're solving on the right-hand side. Very simple exercise, but the ultimate goal of this is to identify what you're selling. And see, why we're doing the value canvas is because most of the time when you have really good ideas, you get carried away and you think, okay, this is the best thing I've ever made. People have to buy this now. But that's not how it works. You need to really find what problem people have and solve it for them, not for yourself. Just because it looks like a good idea to you doesn't mean it's sellable. to make it sellable, this value has to be super clear. And it has to be something that is a bit different from what's out there in the market or something special. Otherwise, it's not easy to really sell it. Okay? So that's why we do the value canvas, to identify that edge or what you're going to really market and what you're going to sell. Okay? Any questions there? We will be sending the canvas to you at the end of the session. Okay, all good. Okay, this is a long part, guys. But I'm trying to summarize this because this is a bit too much information for you at this stage. But for both sales and marketing, to strategize for both sales and marketing, you have to identify or understand the sales and marketing funnel, right? So a customer who comes to your business or looks at your product will go through these stages: awareness, interest, consideration, intent, evaluation, and purchase. So basically, from the first moment they get to know your business to the moment they buy your product or service, there's a process. It's not, oh, I saw it and I bought it. Even if it happens in a matter of minutes, all your customers will go through all of these steps. Okay? So you need to know as a business what to do to convince your customer at each step. That's what we learn in the marketing and sales funnel. Again, depending on your business model, whether it's a B2B or B2C, these strategies change. B2C means business to customer, so when you're directly selling it to the end user, and B2B means business to business. So, say you're not selling to a customer, but you're selling it to the pharmaceutical companies, or you're selling it to a supermarket, right? So you're not going to the end user on your own. In that case, it's B2B. Sometimes it could be both. You could have both channels, right? So let's first look at B2C, because that's usually the most common way. At the awareness phase, usually what your customer is doing is just searching for information. Sometimes your product might not be something they come and look for. Now, if it's a pharmaceutical product, it's something they probably come and look for because there's a very big need. If it's more or less an entertainment thing, it's something like you pass by, like let's say very simply a board game. You don't usually look for one, right? You just go to a shop and then now you see it looks good, then you buy it. So it could be both. They could be looking for information or they could be stumbling upon it. So this is where you need to make your product known. Just generally advertisements, social media posts, just the shout out to say, here we exist. That's what comes at the awareness phase. And then it goes to interest. And also something to remember is sometimes in this one post, you can create awareness and interest and even consideration. It's not always for every single step I need to do something new. That's not the point. In the same thing, you can achieve multiple of these steps, but you need to know that everything has to be done. Okay? So at the interest phase, your customer will learn about your product. They know it exists, and now they'll learn, okay, what it does, how it does it, just general information on your product. And then consideration is the important one then. That's where they start to compare. Right? They really think, okay, look at the reviews. Now they're interested. Obviously, now they don't know the product. They're really considering whether to get it or not. So they're going to read reviews, compare with similar products. Right? Sometimes if it's like a very small purchase, the consideration happens for a couple of seconds. But if it's a big purchase, they will actually think about it. So depending on the product that your team is offering, you have to really think about this consideration phase. So if it's a big purchase or a software kind of thing, then people will think about it. Right? Then you need to have your reviews, testimonials set up. You have to have a website or something that showcases the capabilities. You have to think about these things. And then intent. Intent is ideally that moment they decide, okay, let me put that into the cart. It could be physically putting it into the cart, or it could be going and adding to cart but not really buying it. But it could also be in their mind thinking, okay, I need to buy this, but not right now, but I will buy it. It could be in either of these forms. But there are a lot of businesses that lose the client in this moment. I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys have done that, right? You added it to cart, but obviously not ever bought it. Do you not do that? I don't know, I do that. I sometimes go window shopping online and just like for the fun of it, add things, and then I don't have the money to buy this, and then I just forget about it. People do that, right? Even at this point, the sale is not guaranteed. Okay? So here is I've seen lots of online shops do it. They give little discounts. Sometimes like 2 days later, the price is reduced a little bit. Lots of online shops like Daras, they do that, right? So things like that can help them progress from the cart. Then at the very end, evaluation, there's another review. This is where they properly think about the price. Now they're about to buy it. The only thing that's stopping them is the price. So they think, okay, they compare it with some other prices or whatever discounts, and then they consider that's the evaluation phase. And then finally, once they pay and actually buy it, that's a sale complete. That's the purchase. So B2C, very straightforward, and I don't think, you don't have to think far. You yourself is an end user in most cases. So it's very easy to think about the psychology of the customer in the B2C perspective, right? So in the search of information, again, food cart example, it's right here, but in the search of information, what things can you do if you're going to sell a food cart, sell food in a food cart? Ideas? What do you do? If you're selling food outside the campus, to get people to know about your business, what things can you do? I'll have to start pointing at people at this point. Hold on. You're right there. Mali, yes, you. Yes. If you're selling outside, if you're selling food outside, what would you do? What things do you want to do to get people to know that you're there? How? Okay, social media. Okay, that's good. One idea. Orange t-shirt. Yes. What else? Posters, yeah, around the campus. Good. The one that is absolutely covered, yes, you. The third one. No, this one. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at people because I can't help, I don't know your name. You, yes. What else would you do at the awareness stage? Flyers, okay. Posters, flyers, all right, good. At the very corner, yes. Oh, okay. That is more of interest because you're giving more information about the products, right? That's a good one, but that's more for the second stage. First, we just want to know that the cart exists. So, but that's really good. That's a very good one for the second one. Okay? Word of mouth. Okay, and just being there, right? Parking it in front of the entrance. That's the biggest creation of awareness you can do. Smack in the middle, there's a food cart, everybody's gonna know, right? Sometimes it's not that deep, okay? You don't have to go too far. It's the simple things. It might even not look like a marketing method. Just come and park it in front when campus is like starting or when it's ending. Everyone will know it's there, right? But again, like other things are good. Social media is great. Everything is good. But sometimes, like, you have to think what is your product and what's the minimal effort way of getting the maximum output. Sometimes you'd be lazy like that and think a little bit. Okay? Okay, and then interest. How would you create interest about the food cart? I take that answer for this, okay? So, displaying a banner, what's on there, saying what's on there in the menu. That's a good idea. What else? The middle. Tell me. No, the one in the middle. Sorry? Okay. Games. So how would a game give information of the product? The food cart organizing a game. Like, walk me through the idea. No, it's interesting, so I just want to know how. I'll let you think about it a little bit. Until that, yeah, all the way at the back, yes, Nagi. Yeah, you're the only one. Tell me. How? Display how? He already said banners. Sorry? That's true, but how would they know about it? Word of mouth, yes, but what would you do to get that done? Okay, nobody sit down. Any other ideas? Free samples, yeah, that's a good one. Just hand out free samples. Anybody likes to eat free samples. And if it's good, you have clients now. That's a good way of getting their interest. So there's nothing like the strategy used for awareness you can't use for interest. Nobody said that. You can still do social media. You can still do posters. All of that still works, even for interest. You can do one thing that achieves multiple of these stages, like I said. Okay. Now in consideration. In consideration, what could you do? What do you do specifically to create consideration or help with the consideration phase? Yes. Ideas? In consideration, say I'm going to the food cart, I'm going to look at the menu, so I know the menu also. Now I'm considering whether I'm going to buy this or that, like somebody else's food. Whether I'm going to this or am I going to go to the canteen and buy my old food? You're really considering whether to buy this or not. What can you as the business owner do to help with the consideration? I don't mind discuss and answer. That's also fine. Yeah. Unique food to help with consideration. I think that could help. If there's something that they can't get from anywhere nearby, that could help with the consideration phase. Yeah, that's right. Have some innovative menu items. That's a good one. What else? Like, think about it. If you're doing the food cart, what would you do? Sorry? Offers. Yeah, that's a good one too. If you have some offers, obviously that will help with consideration. Yeah, set up a Google page review, or very simply, guys, tell your friends to say, oh, that food cart is amazing. You know, word of mouth really helps in consideration. Tell people to talk about it. Get your friends to boast about it. Sorry? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Free samples will also help in consideration. If you eat it and it's good, you obviously go and buy it, right? Yeah, that's a good one. Right. With the food cart example, you will realize all of these layers are very short. Like, they overlap, and they sometimes happen in the same step, right? But for a product that usually takes a long time for someone to think and buy, this is a longer process. And that in that case, there's more things you can do. For example, if it's like a healthcare product, then for consideration, you might have to let them try it, or like if it's an IT product, that's why free trials are there, right? So in different industries and products, it's different strategies. Okay, at intent. Again, very similar. Promotions can help, samples can help. In this example, consideration in intent is very much an overlap. Okay, evaluation. This can be a little bit different. How would you help with evaluation? Yeah, discounts definitely helps with evaluation, for sure. What else? You know, this biggest rivalry, rivalry that's going on between Pepsi and Coca-Cola? It's a constant battle in this evaluation stage. It's not good practice in marketing, but it's fun over the years to see how they bash each other in the advertisements, right? They're trying to capture the customer in the evaluation step. Obviously, when you say cola, you always think, oh, is it Pepsi or Coca-Cola, right? And in the advertisements, they always try to one-up each other. That's them fighting in the evaluation phase. Sometimes kind of hinting at another brand without really saying it out loud also helps here. But again, depends on what your product is. And then at purchase, okay, so purchase, also there are some things you can do to make sure they come back again. That's the important thing. For your product, you need to think not just about customer acquisition, but retention. So how well you manage customers at purchase and after purchase will make sure whether they come back or never come back again. So that's why we have things called, now it's not part of the marketing funnel, but there's a portion called after sales services. That might be very important for your product, right? If it's a software, then you have to have maintenance or like support, like T1, T2, whatever, support, right? And then if it's like a medical equipment, then there might be servicing, right? Or helping set up, things like that. So all of that also needs to be thought about. It's not after the purchase, okay, it's your problem now, I don't care. You can't be doing that, right? Any questions around the marketing and sales funnel? Is it clear? Now, how this is going to be important for you in the competition perspective is you have to present your business model canvas, right? Or like your business plan. In that case, you have to say how you're going to attract your customer and how you're going to retain them. That's when this part becomes important, specifically in your presentations. Oh, actually, one more thing. Before we go to the next part, now I said B2B and B2C are different. Let's very quickly take a few examples and see how B2B is different from B2C. Okay? At the awareness stage, if it's a business you're selling for, same thing. Whatever it is, they're still looking for information. The business is also looking for information. And then at the interest stage, they will already start looking for reviews, looking at other products. If it's a business, it's not just as easy as, okay, because I thought this is good, I'm going to buy. They have to make more informed decisions. Sometimes it's compulsory for them to go through like 3 quotations to source it. So multiple steps involved. And in consideration, they would want research on the products, and they'll research on the brand, they'll research on your supply chain sometimes. It's important for a business. They need way more information than just a customer. And then at intent, you would ideally give a product demo. Yeah? And then at evaluation state, you'll have to send a formal contract with the offers, whatever you provide, you have to send a contract. And then at the end, they will sign the contract, pay you, and done. Deal done. So those are the stages, slightly different. But for a B2B scenario, completely different strategies you have to follow. So same food cart. Okay? This time, think about the food cart trying to get a catering order. Okay, your food, like, or rather your food cart has made some special sauce, like sandwich or submarine or whatever sauce, and now you want to sell it to some other restaurants and businesses. Okay, so let's take that example and see what you will do at each stage. Okay, so awareness, starting with basics. Awareness, what would you do to create awareness? You want to say? What would you do to create awareness about this sauce? Yes, if you want to sell it to a business. How? Using what? Okay, good. Going and talking to the managers. Okay. But samples again falls under interest. Right? But just going and talking itself is awareness. What else? Oh no, I asked you a question. Oh no, I didn't ask you a question. Yes. Yes. What else can you do to create awareness? Any ideas? How would you let people know that you have a sauce to sell? No? No ideas? All the way at the back. Yes. Come here. That's interest. That is interest. First, they don't even know this exists. And it's a business, remember? It's a business. Yes, dark blue t-shirt, shirt. Yeah. That's you. I'm sorry, I have to point. 1, 2, 3, fourth one in the second row. Yes. Sorry? Advertisements? Yeah. That could work. Would social media work? Unlikely. Because how many business owners just because a manager sees a social media advertisement, they can't think, oh, this seems good, I'm going to buy this today for the business. That's not going to happen. So things like common advertisements, social media, posters, these are things we talked about for B2C, right? Posters, flyers, advertisements, social media, they won't really work for B2B. Because nobody is just going to buy a sauce or like literally anything at scale for a business just because they saw a poster. Can happen, highly unlikely. You have to go for a more personalized approach. It should be email marketing. Like you should send an email saying, hey, we have this thing. Are you interested? We can give you a product demo. Or you can actually go to, like, book an appointment, make an appointment, meet the restaurant owner that you want to sell to. Right? You have to give a more personalized approach because we are not talking about selling one bottle of sauce. We are talking about hundreds, thousands. These kind of purchases will take a lot of convincing to do. Right? So that's how you create awareness. You book an appointment or you send an email. You have to reach out formally. In B2C, customers will find you when they get to know you. But in B2B, most of the time, you need to go find the customer. You need to go to them. That's the main difference. Right? So completely two different approaches. And then at interest, I think a lot of the examples you all mentioned falls under that interest part. Oh, are you here for the, oh, no. Is it from our team? Oh my gosh. Sorry about that. Yeah, so interest, lots of the answers you all gave falls under interest, okay? Getting them to try it, giving samples, giving them the ingredient, not all the ingredients, but like saying what it's made up out of, and like saying things like, okay, these are locally sourced, organic, all of that, right? All of that comes under interest, where you give more information and you let, and you give more information about the product and you let them try it. And then at consideration, this is where your buyers, if they're interested, they'll say, okay, I need to know more information. Then you'll have to provide research. And then you'll have to maybe say like this is how it's sourced. It's, let's say, these are fresh ingredients, proof that it's fresh ingredients, right? Or like disclose allergens that could be there. So all the nitty-gritty information comes in the consideration phase, actually. Again, interest and consideration can very much overlap. Okay, it could be an information sheet. It could be a flyer, like a product flyer that you specially make for your B2B customers. Because you would never give this level of information to just a B2C client. It doesn't require you to do that, right? And then like, how fast can you give it? How much stock do you have? All of that. And then at intent, they will need a demo. They'll say, okay, I'll use this for a week in the restaurant and see how my customers react to it, and then decide how much I want to buy or whether I want to buy it or not. They'll give a trial period. Even for things like food, it'll be a trial period. For machinery, obviously there's going to be some trial period to learn how to use it and to implement it, right? And then at evaluation is when you finally give the proposal. This is where you can give attractive discounts or good trade terms, right? Let's say, or give a credit period. There's lots of different things you can do. And say, okay, if you buy 100 pieces, you get 5%. But if you buy 1,000 pieces, you get a 20% off, right? So discounts like that, bulk discounts. All of that comes in evaluation. And then if all the terms are favorable, you go to purchase, okay? Another thing that's important here is if your product is a new invention, especially if it's a software, if it's a product that's really new in the market, before you go to consideration where you disclose a lot of the information, sign an NDA. You need to know how to protect your invention. You need to go and sign an NDA before you disclose information. Still, things can happen, but at least that will protect you to some extent. Very important for engineering products, for starters. Okay, so that's the difference between B2B and B2C in terms of sales and marketing. Any questions? Any specific thing that's specific to your team that you can't really say out loud? After we finish the evolving section, we'll give half an hour for you to talk about it and come and ask questions personally. Because I know sometimes there might be questions that you can't ask here because it is a competition after all. Okay. I was told that you did a go-to-market session. Did you all have the go-to-market session? You all had it, right? Okay, nice. Then we can just skip to it. Okay. For this next part, which is the operation strategy, I'm going to invite Tilanga to take this up because he is the expert on this subject.
Right, good morning. Right. So I'll talk about operation strategy here. Right. So if you take the same food cart, right? Food cart, there are certain daily operations that need to carry out, right? So you have to basically, if you take a food cart like submarine or burger, you have to first you have to prepare, right? Then you have to source certain things, right, that come under supply chain management. But if you take, you have to manage your, basically you have to have cash, like to give exchange. You have to make sure that your, payment devices are working, and you have to have operating time there, and you have to recruit, have the staff in place, right? So those things are considered as daily operations, right? To run the business, you have to have a set of resources reserved pre-hand before, basically opening the shop or start the operation, right? So these are called daily operation. In this example, we have, operating hours, declaring the operating hours, right? Staff, right? Staff needs to be present at the premises, so in the shop, before the shop is open and customers are coming. Finally, we have during operation hours, the staff handles the customer orders and they deliver. So those are considered as daily operation. In a same example as Chamatka taken in a like food cart operation, right? So if we take another example, like if you are delivering something like software or something like that. So in that case, you have in the daily operation side, so if you are delivering a software to someone or delivering a software product to someone in daily operation side, you have to ensure that the support is there, right? Staff is available, right? Your servers and everything is running on time and everything, right? Likewise, those are daily operations kind of thing. So basically, in the software side of thing, the daily operation is considered as, giving the support, right? That's the primary thing. Right? Then we come to the supply chain management. So what is supply chain management, as we understand? Can someone raise your hand? Oh, I'm going to pick one. Right? Supply chain. Name means its meaning and definition is given there. Right? As per your understanding, I'm asking. Yes, sir? Okay, right, okay. So basically, to run the daily operational business, you have to have a supply chain operation. Basically, you should have vendors to supply buns. If I take the same example, supply buns and any meat kind of things, right? Sauces, lettuce, certain things needs to be sourced in different kind of vendors, right? So as per the, based on the requirement and the demand, you have to pre-order certain things. In certain times, you have to order a higher value, lower value kind of thing, right? So this general operation is called the supply chain operation, right? The suppliers has a chain, right? So certain things we order the day before, like short expiry things we order day before. Certain things we can keep for a long time, like frozen items, right? So we order it, with a kind of a gap, right? So within 2 days I need this order, right? Within 1 week I need this order, like tomorrow I need this, right? So managing this particular operation is called supply chain management, right? So in this example, sources vegetable, bread, other ingredients from local markets and supplies. So similar thing I explained. Orders are placed in advance, right? In this example is twice a week to ensure the freshness, right? Same example if I take in, you have to manage that supplies. Otherwise, you will head into the trouble at the end when the operations start early 9 a.m. If there are no buns, no meat items, no sauces, right? Customer will go away. To ensure that you retain the customer, you have to properly manage the supply chain correctly, right? So this is the second item. Then we have the quality control, right? So this is something very important, right? When you start a business, you try to give the best possible service to the customer, right? Whether it is software or it's a fresh vegetable cart, whatever you do, when you start a business, you try to deliver the best quality service to the customer. But eventually, with the time, when you understand the customer and you think that, okay, let's reduce a certain thing. So if we take the same example, if we put 2 slices of tomatoes in burger, you reduce it to 1, right? Because of for so many reasons you have to do basically. Because of cost, right? Because you think it is not required. Likewise, you reduce the cost. Don't do it in a business, right? That's the advice, right? You may raise your price a bit, but don't reduce the quality, right? So the best example is because I'm closely working with one of my colleagues that I know him very well at Pereira & Sons, right? Even though they increase the price of their short eats, they never reduce quality, never ever. So it's their policy. That is because of that only they have survived 140 years as of now. This is a huge period to survive, right? So don't reduce quality, maintain hygiene and everything properly. Likewise, if you take the same example. So basically I wanted to explain you is, do not reduce the quality of your service or product under any circumstances, right? So that is called quality control. And then we have technology and tools. In simple terms, if you are delivering something techie, you have to use certain technological tools, right? If you are selling something online or offline, you have to have a payment device or something like that. So technology or tools, try to keep it, it evolving, right? So for example, now people tend to pay using digital payment modes, right? If you only accept cash, certain people will move out from your business, right? So you can have a QR, POS machine, and also accept cash as well, right? So, so ready to accept that, basically, if you are delivering a techie product, right, use the latest kind of technologies, understand what are the trends, right? Don't put your foot back. Always try to think ahead, right? That is the usage of technologies and tools, actually, that make use of it. And you can use AI as well. So make use of it, right? Then we have staffing and schedule, right? So this is about kind of a HR-related thing, right? So if you are selling a product, ensure that staff is on time there with, with all the things, geared up, right? If you're selling a techie product, if customer calls or queries about your product, then set the staff to respond properly, right? So it is go hand in hand with quality control. Basically, it's delivering a quality product to the customer, right? So most of the times the businesses fail, they fail to give a proper customer service, right? So staffing and scheduling, it is not only about people who run daily operations, but it also considered as, basically giving the support as well. And you have to think about the scalability, right? Final thing. What do you mean by scalability? Definitions there. Yeah. Yes, correct. So basically, when your business grows, right, you may expand your operation, right? You may open multiple outlets, right? So if you're selling a techie product, you may add some components, value-added services, right? So with that, you have to scale to address a huge, larger customer base when you are running the operation, right? So that is called scalability, right? Yeah. Do you have another? This one. Right. Okay. So yeah, that is about operation strategy. So basically, if you are running a business, consider these six things, right? First thing, daily operation, how you run the business in daily basis. Second thing, supply chain management, right? Ensure that you have geared up before the operation start, right? Then never degrade your quality. Keep the quality every time. Consistency, you have to maintain the quality. And use technologies and tools as much as possible. Think ahead, right? Staffing schedule. To run the company, you have to properly schedule the staff and give a proper care, and think about scalability. When the company grows, you have to ensure that it doesn't stay in the same line, but it will eventually grow with the time, with the customers' acquisition, right? So, any questions? Anything to ask or clarify? Okay, I'll hand over the session to Madhuranga. Yes, Madhuranga. So he will talk about the financial strategy, how you manage things, revenue streams, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so this is also very important part of the your business model. So basically, this will describe how do you earn revenue from your business. So you learn now what the marketing strategy is, then value propositions, so operation side. So if you are not making money, if you are not earning revenue, none of those matters if you are not making money, right? So this is also very important. So this basically describe how does your business make money. So this is basically different from one business to another business. There may be sometimes only one revenue model. There may be sometimes multiple business revenue model within one business line. So I'll tell you, we'll go through one by one. So first one is direct sales. Direct sales is when you let's take this example, the business, that food cart. So when you sell a burger or whatever the food product, so which we call direct sales. We just sell the product and earn money. So in your business also, there may be instance that if it is a product, so you can just sell the product to the customer and directly earn money, earn revenue. So then the other one is subscription model. In here, what you can do is, you can think about to bundle a product, get subscription. Let's say the subscription may be a weekly subscription, maybe a monthly subscription, likewise. So let's say instead of doing daily sales, you can say, tell that, so if you subscribe this much of amount per week, so for the entire week, this product we can give you all 3 meals. So, but at a different price. So let's say you can buy 1 meal each day. Instead of, you can ask customer, okay, you pay me price for 7 meals, right, at once, right? Then I can offer you at a discount. Then once you subscribe for 7 meals, then you can get 7 meals anytime from my card. So in the same time, so I'll give another example. When you look at the, Netflix, right? So the Prime TV, those things. So when you go there, you can see the subscription model there, right? So in here also, in your business idea, just think about whether this subscription model can be applied to your business also. It shouldn't be just direct sales. Sometimes you can make a subscription model. It may be more, it will be generate more revenue sometimes. Another thing is licensing. So here, licensing is allowing to use your product to someone. You are not directly sell the product. Instead of, what you can do is, you can sell the right to use. Example, Microsoft. It's not your product. Microsoft sell their license product as a license model. So what we can do is, we always buy the license. End of the expiry of the license, we have to buy it again. So this is called licensing model. Check whether you can use the same model for your business as well. Then the other one is freemium. Freemium is something like, what you can do is, you can urge or you can give your product to customer free, the part of the product free, but to access the other part, they have to pay. So you may have seen that there are some free trials, free 15 days trials, or there are some, if let's say, if there's any, subscription model product, so there are some part that you can access free of charge. But if you want to go to access the important other part of the product, you have to pay more. Basically, even the ChatGPT, they have a free version, but through the free version, what they are doing is, they are encouraging us to use the product. Then what they are doing next, they are charging after a certain period or for certain features. So that is called freemium. Another one is transaction fee. So this will mostly apply in financial transaction basis. So basically, you may have seen that in mobile payments app, banking app, you guys are using banking apps, right? So when you are making transfer, there's a separate charge like 30 rupees or 25 rupees or something like that. That what they are doing is they are charging particular fee on each transaction that happen through that app. Even for post transaction, then the IP payment gate transaction, card payment transaction, the MasterCard and Visa, what they are doing, what is their main business? They are getting a transaction fee from every transaction that you do through Visa or MasterCard. It's a huge business model. Then the leasing. Leasing is something you can, if it is a kind of a property or something, let's say you, as a business, you make a machine, huge machine. So if the business idea is, your business idea is making a machine that useful for something, cleaning or something, right? So what you can do is, if the machine initial cost is huge, but you can't sell it. What you can do is you can lease it. Even these property people, what they are doing is they lease their property instead of selling and earn money on leasing. And commissioning. Commissioning is also another way to make income. So instead of direct sales, through supporting a sale, as a middleman, you can earn a commission. I'll give even Uber, Pick.me, their main business model is commissioning income. They don't have food, they don't have a delivery thing. So what they are doing is they are doing intermediary connection. They are and earning money, earning a commission from both customer and the restaurant. So another thing is franchise. Franchise is something that you can create a business model and you can give the entire business model to another operator. Example, KFC, then Mac. Those are franchise. So they are not operating here. They have created an entire business model. They have given that model to different operators in different countries, and they earn a franchise fee. And the other one is pay per use. Pay per use also, when you, if your product, like I'll give example, so there are some products we sell as SaaS, service as software. So then what we are doing is, when that service is, every service they use, every unit they use, we charge per unit. Whatever, there's no kind of a upfront revenue, but they have subscribed, but the charge will happen when they use the service only. So, and advertising mean you can't, this is an indirect kind of sale. Let's say you have a website in your product, or example, Daras. So it's a platform where buyers and sellers meet. But Daras, what Daras does, you may have seen on Dara's website, there are some banner spaces. So those are not free of charge. So if you feel that there are so many customers are coming to my website, then what you can do is you can create a banner space in your website and give it to the business person to promote their business also through advertising. You can charge an advertising fee. Even in TV, you can see that advertising space in every channels. There's a advertising space under each program. So they charge huge. They earn huge money from advertising spaces. So these are the basic revenue generation model in a business. So you can think about more, and you shouldn't be stick to a one particular business or revenue generation model. What you can do is you have to have different revenue generation model and think to earn revenue as much as possible. Then I'll move. The other one is another one is always the revenue generation model should align with your business model and value proposition. I'll give you an example. Let's say in this food cart things, right? If you are targeting the students as customers, you can't sell it at a higher price. Or you can decide a revenue generation model which charge high price. So always the revenue generation model should align with your customer segment. It should always tally with your customer segment and business model. So I'll move to the next slide. So this is basically profit and loss statement. Have you guys studied accounting? Or you have subject? Accounting subject? You too, right? Sima. Okay, right. Others? No idea. Okay. So this is basic of profit and loss statement. So basically, everyone know our income and profit is different between income and expenses. Even your business, you have to always think about now we talk about the revenue side. You have to always think about the cost side also, right? So when we look at the cost structure, there are expenses that directly associated with your production. So let's say if you are making a burger, so the chef charges. Then the relevant material charges, sauce. If you have put sauces, then sauce charge. Those are direct material or direct cost that's associated with the production. So we call them direct cost. It may be direct labor, it may be direct material, it may be direct overhead. Right? So there are some other expenses that they don't directly associated with production, but to run the business, you have to incur those costs. Example, sales, you have to have a salesperson to run the business. Then sales, those admin staff salary. Then there should be a finance person. There should be a operation person to run the business. Then those persons' salaries. Then the if you need to have a office space, then those if you are renting a space, then rent cost. Then the relevant electricity, water bills, those are relevant to our business, but the only thing is those are not directly related to production. Those costs we considered as other expenses. We call administration, then marketing expenses. Sometimes you have to borrow money, get a loan. In that case, you have to pay interest. So those are also part of your business cost. So when you calculate the cost structure, entire cost of the business, so you have to think about all the expenses, and then you have to divide those direct and indirect. So anyway, whatever the cost you have to think about, you have to calculate, you have to deduct from your revenue and get the profit at the end. So in here you can see revenue is there, then direct labor, direct material, direct overhead is there. Then after revenue, revenue minus those direct cost we call gross profit. Gross. Those are not net. So then after gross profit, we can deduct other indirect expenses, all the other indirect expenses what I told here. Then we can get profit before tax. You guys know if you are running a business, we have to pay taxes also. Not at the initial stage, but later on everyone has to pay taxes. So then we can get profit before tax. Then after deducting tax, we can get profit after tax or profit for the year. So this is the basic idea about the P&L, profit and loss. So what you have to keep it in your mind is, so there are businesses who has failed not because of the idea, but because of the numbers. Since they are not keep tracking their numbers properly, they don't have a proper idea where their business goes. So this is the only way we can track the business. So we don't know, you can see we are getting revenue, we are spending all the revenue we are get. We don't know how much we have retained, how much money in my hand to expend for the next year. So whether this cash in hand is enough for for my operations. We don't have idea if we are not keep tracking our numbers, business numbers. So this is very important when we are doing a business. Always keep everything tracked, right? So if it is a small or if it is a large number, you have to track it. So this is all about the financial strategy. So do you have any question? You can raise it now. You got the idea, right? Right, so we'll have a mentoring session. During that mentoring session, you can ask any question related to your business in that session.
Right, so because, so right now we're done with the evolving section of the baseboard. So we have only one final section to cover. Before we do that, we'll give like half an hour for you to, if you have any team members, talk with them, or to think about all these aspects of your business and ask questions. So if you have any technical questions related to IT, just anything technical, you can talk to Tilanga and, I'm sorry, what? Yeah, but Nusha's not here. Melanie, yeah. Melanie and Tilanga over there. And if you have any questions regarding operations, also you can ask Tilanga, and then anything related to finance, Madhuranga, and anything else related to marketing or anything else, you can ask me. Okay, so we'll give like half an hour for you all to talk among yourselves and then come and reach out. And I'll leave this so you guys have an idea. Before we go and look back at the base model, I want to introduce a new canvas we call the business model canvas. Very simply, this is the one tool you use to put your entire business idea on one piece of paper. Even after the value canvas, I would say this is the most important thing. Even if you don't fill out anything else, you need to very quickly with your team members fill out the business model canvas, because this is exactly what you will be presenting in the finals to the judges. Right? The components of this business model canvas, every single one of them is important for the finals. You won't be presenting the canvas, but you will present all the components. Right? So the business model canvas is built on a foundation, and that foundation is your financials, costs and revenue. So here we are looking at the cost structure and also the revenue streams. This part we already completed. The session that we did right before, the one that Madhuranga conducted, talked about the revenue streams and the cost, P&L, right? So that covered the foundation of your business. And then on the left-hand side, you have what you do in your business, and the right-hand side is your customer. What bridges these two, what is the bridge between the customer and the business is your value proposition. So under the value canvas, when we did that, we already explored the value proposition part as well. So our foundation and bridge is already established. Okay, so in the next sessions, we are going to deep dive on identifying your customer and their needs, and also deciding what you need to do in your business to deliver that value. Okay, so I'll quickly show how the base model and the business model canvas maps to each other. By completing the base model, you already complete the BMC as well. Okay, so right now, the sections that I've highlighted in gray, we have already covered in the base model. We did the value proposition, we did the financial strategy, so cost structure and revenue streams are covered. And we also did key resources. We looked at what we needed in the assessment part. Not in today's session, in the previous session, we looked at the key resources. So all of these three things are covered in the BMC already. That's already done. In the next section, in the operating section, we will do key activities, key players, customer segments, customer relationships, and channels. All of that directly maps to the BMC. It's even the same topics, right? And in addition to that, the baseboard has two more things, growth and assessment. So the BMC is what is your plan now, and the base model gives a little bit extra information. How do you take the business to the next level? That comes with growth and assessment. Okay, so we'll first cover the parts that is needed for the BMC. Right? So starting off, we have key activities, and for that part, I'm going to invite Tilanga. He will explain this section, and then we move on to the rest.
Right. So I'll go on the key activities section. Right. So when you're running a business, you have a certain set of key activities. Right. The main, the important activities that you need to carry out. Right. So those activities are not limited to what we have mentioned here, but there may be so many other activities as well. But I'll cover generally a set of general key activities that you need to look into when you're running or starting a business and running a business, right? So first, so if you have kind of a, production base, right? So same food cart also, it's a kind of a small production happening there. So you have to prepare the burger or submarine or something, right? So there are certain activities that you need to carry out, right? Like manufacturing, assembling the burger in a way that's presentable to the customer, right? Likewise, there are activities that you need to carry out in the production perspective, right? If you are starting kind of a farm, right? There are certain production activities that you need to carry out, like growing the plants, right? Packing it and selling it, like it's a kind of a production, right? So on par with that, you have to do marketing to sell that product, right? Marketing perspective, it is like you don't sell your technical solution. Or so, for example, if you are building some sort of highly technical sensor kind of thing, right? So you don't go and sell. I'm going to sell this sensor. This thing does this thing. Likewise, right? It doesn't feel to that particular customer, right? Instead, you have to carry out activities in a way that customer can understand, right? For example, in Coca-Cola example, I was talking to one of the groups, right? Coca-Cola, in marketing and sales, right? In marketing side, what Coca-Cola sells actually? What Coca-Cola sells? How do they market it? Right? So it's a beverage in a bottle, right? Have you ever seen that Coca-Cola said that we are selling you a beverage? No, right? So it is there. What they say is they sell happiness, right? When they sell happiness, it feels to a customer, right? It feels, right? That's how they do marketing, right? So it's something additional that I told you, right? When you are doing sales and marketing, ensure that you do this activity in a way that customer can understand. How you can give a solution to the problem they have, right? So that is, in marketing perspective, the key activity you have to carry out, right? Then I explained earlier how the supply chain management needs to be done. So I'm not going to elaborate more on this, right? You have to have a clear set of supply chain, right? The vendors are in hand 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, or day before. Likewise, you have to keep them informed and ensure that the items that needs to run your business are in hand before you start the operation, right? So it's one of the major activities that you need to carry out, right? Then in the previous section, Madhuranga explained about financial management, right? If you can't manage financial activities in a proper way, right? If you don't have a proper ledger or record keeping system, you don't know what is happening with your business, right? It's very simple. Money management, what are the costs, how you generate revenue, and are we actually, as the business, are you making money or a profit out of it, right? how it grows, everything can be monitored if you have a proper financial management system. So basically, financial management is another key activity that, it's a daily, you have to do it on daily basis, right? It's another one of the key activities, which is important, right? Budgeting, forecasting, everything you have to do, right? So 4 things I explained: production activities, right? Marketing, supply chain, I explained. Financial also, you have an idea because Madhuranga explained, right? Then the next thing, the problem solving, right? It is go hand in hand with what I explained earlier as well. Basically, what is the problem that you are going to solve, and how I can solve this problem, right? So basically, if you are selling a burger, it is basically you are trying to give food to your customer, right? In simple terms, right? But is that only? How you can package it? You can do an R&D on how to reduce the cost and give a better meal to customer, right? So those are kind of problem-solving activities that you need to add some innovation to what you are doing, right? It is one of the another key activity that you need to carry out, because if you are stagnated in the same thing for years and years, for a longer time, someone else will come into the market and grab your customer, right? In Sri Lanka, Uber launched first. Then PickMe came. But as of now, PickMe is growing rapidly because their problem solving is very good. They are doing a lot of R&D, and they cater their product to suit local market, right? That is problem solving, right? So, in my personal opinion, I go on a PickMe rather than using a Uber. So it's convenient for me, right? In every application works fine, right? Everything. So my problem is, so basically when I don't have the vehicle from transit from place A to B, in Sri Lankan context, most convenient way is PickMe for me, right? This comes under how they have solved the problem of transportation, right? Legal and compliance, right? Whatever the business you do, you have to comply with the country's law as well as the local area. There are certain laws in a particular local area, and you have to comply with the compliance standard, health standards. Likewise, how you prepare a meal, you have to, have this hat, cap, and everything. So maintain the hygiene, right? How you throw away the leftovers. Likewise, if you are running a, for example, service station kind of thing, how this collected oil are discarded, and recycling of used water, right? Those compliance you have to adhere, right? Otherwise, government will say, so okay, don't do this business, stop it. It's simple as that, right? Then we have quality assurance. I earlier also explained you. So have a sort of idea of what quality assurance is. Don't degrade your quality of business, right? Keep the same quality throughout, and from day 1 to day 100, 10 years. Don't degrade the quality, right? Ensure that the intended quality of your product or service is delivered consistently. Then we have the customer service, right? Most businesses fails because they are, they fail to provide a better customer service, right? For example, you are selling a techie product, customer calls, and no one picks the phone, right? So how that particular person can resolve his or her problem, right? So generally there is a tendency to give up and go for one of your competitors, right? There is a chance, right? So Giving customer care is also another important. And also it comes with, social responsibility. What is social responsibility? As a business, you have a certain set of responsibilities that you need to adhere with you give something back to the society, right? With your earnings or with your CSR activities, or maybe, keeping a, garbage bin somewhere is also a social responsibility. Every come and, discard their leftovers, right? Kind of social responsibility. When you're running a business, you should have a responsibility towards society. In general terms, it is. And logistics also come in hand with supply chain as well. But it is, I can explain in way that how you deliver it to the customer, right? Packaging, for example, if you are growing something, farming or something, you have to pick them and box it, package it in a way that consumer can purchase in a shop or a market, right? So that is under logistics. How you arrange it. So basically, you have to transport in a kind of vehicle. You have to keep that arrangement. So basically, weekly basis, you transport goods to the supermarket. So transportation mode needs to be in place to do so, right? So then technology and IT, I explained this earlier as well. To sell your product or make use of your product, customers may need to use technology, right? So even having electronic system to billing and everything, billing, financing, marketing, right, nowadays, and AI-based technologies can be used in technology and IT. Finally, we have human resources. Without human resources, you can't do anything, right? Ensure that you take care of your human resources, right? You pay the right amount, right? Give the facilities, right? Make them happy to work with you, right? So other than that, it is about recruiting, onboarding, choosing the right candidate, qualified candidate. Likewise, there are certain things that you need to carry out. Basically, in human, the most important thing is training. In certain people might not have enough experience to do or carry out the operation in your business, because idea is yours. How certain things are done is in your mind, but you have to give them a proper training, right? So that is all about the operating key activities. There are set of key activities, right? First thing is production, right? How you handle the production, and marketing and sales, supply chain, finance, then problem solving in R&D kind of thing, legal, quality assurance, customer service, social responsibility, logistics, technology, IT, and finally, how you manage the tasks in human resources. Right? Any questions that you need to clarify? Right. Okay. Yeah. So next segment is on. Next segment will be done by Mr. Kanishka. So.
Still good morning, right? Good morning. Right. So it's about marketing, right? I hope you guys were seated here for some time, right? Okay. So let's do an activity. I want everybody who is in this room, everybody, except the guy who is taking the pictures, right? Everybody to go out and pick something, right? An object, it can be a leaf or it can be a stone or anything, an object, right? Which can reflect yourself and you can market yourself with that object. Go and pick and come. Right. Sit quickly. Okay, so what we're going to talk about, marketing, right? Now, you can have a great idea. How many ideas do we get on a day? I don't need this. Okay, so University of Moratuwa, Electronics and Telecommunication faculty students, first year, second year, third year? First year? Which year? Second year? Second year. How many ideas do you get a day? No ideas? You don't get ideas? How many ideas do you get? You said no supervision is required like your hair, right? So average person gets about 10 to 14 ideas a day. Right? Now think, if we get 10 to 14 ideas a day, right, we would have probably been millionaires by now, right? If we implemented, right? Even though we get the ideas, there are some days, zero implementation. There are some days, we take an attempt and we forget. There are some days you probably rethink of that idea and brainstorm it and break it through. That is what you're qualified to be here, right? Okay, so we are talking about customer relationship, right? So this is part of marketing. So you can have ideas, you can start implementing, you can basically talk about it, you can go to competition and pitch, you can get awards, recognition, everything. But if you don't have people who is going to pay or buy your idea, right, it's not going to be sustainable. You may have, who is going to fund your idea first? There are 3 F's. Generally, when you start with a business idea, there are 3 F's who will going to support you. Any idea? First one is friends, right? You can fool around them and get some money, and some other say, this is a brilliant idea. You can become, we all can become millionaires and raise some funds. Second F, family, right? If you have rich uncle, you're lucky, right? If you have any aunties without children and have a lot of property, you're lucky, right? If both not there, probably your father and mother would be the resource, right? Brothers and sisters, because they might be similar to your age, no? Right? If you have an elder brother who is in Canada or UK, you might be lucky, right? Otherwise, within the family only, something can be raised. What is the third F? Friends, family. Other one is the hardest, but if you get, you are the luckiest. Not the father-in-law. He's a fool, right? Somebody who will come and put money into your idea is a fool. Right? So it's friends, family, and fools. So that is what who is going to fund you at the initial stage, right? Now, in order to prove yourself, what you need to have is customers, right? So customers, first thing is, you need to basically acquire customers. You need to start getting customers, right? How many of you have seen free promotions? buy one, get one free, or you get promotions where you can do sampling. Right? If you go to, there's a Kiel supermarket here, right? So if you go there, sometimes there are people with samples. No strings attached. You don't need to pay the product or buy the product. Right? They will give you a sample, and that girl will come very nicely and say, I have a target, can you buy one product? Right? So that's acquisition. You get the customer to use, right? How many of you use, let's say, Lux? No, not even the girls? You don't use Lux? No, Lux? No? No Lux? Yes, okay. Right. If you are to change from Lux to another soap, right, what would you consider? Oh, for the boys, I'll tell you from Lifebuoy. From Lifebuoy soap to you wanted to change it to another soap. What would you consider? This is 2026, right? So 9 years back, I was lecturing in the same university, so I know your mentality on selecting a soap. So the first thing is, what is the first thing? Price, right? Price is the first thing. Then second thing? Second thing is what? It should give a long-lasting smell. Third thing, because you come in the morning and you go in the night, no? You need to keep up your personality up, right? What is the third thing? The soap itself should long last. Otherwise, if it is getting over in 1 week, you won't basically buy the second time, right? So you need to have some sort of a mechanism to acquire customers, because you need the customers to try your product. So that is where you come up with custom acquisition strategies. So different products has different strategies. Some do sampling, right? So I'll give you a bit of an example. You know Pepsi? I think Tilanga spoke about Coca-Cola. What's the difference between Pepsi and Coca-Cola? Both are cola. What's the difference? What's the difference between a Coke and Pepsi? So there was a research done in US, right? So they did a sample. So this was done by Pepsi. Pepsi did a bit of a formula enhancement, and they did a sample. White color cup, 2 drinks are given, sample A, sample B, right? So some people were given sample A to try first, and some people were given sample B to try first, right? So in a small cup, you get 1 sip of, or 2 sips of a drink. So A was Pepsi, B was Coca-Cola. 90% of people said A is superb. 90% of people said A is superb. Pepsi was thrilled. And the guy who did the formula changes now promoted, because Pepsi had basically done a groundbreaking innovation to be better than 90% better than Coke. So Coke also got excited, right? 90% of people on this sample says Pepsi is better, right? But when Pepsi started producing and put the cans into the market, Coke also had their cans in the market, a lot of people tried Pepsi, but did not purchase second time. They did not purchase second time, right? So they did a lot of campaign to make custom acquisition. Second time onwards, they did pay. So that's the secret of that formula. Generally, if you take Pepsi and Coke, the difference is Pepsi is more sweeter, right? Pepsi is more sweeter, right? When you drink 1 can of Pepsi, right, you get a lot of sweet absorbed in your mouth. But Coke is less sweet, but you can easily finish 1 can, right? It basically can consume it as a drink, right? So people who tried Pepsi would have not finished 1 can, so they left it. So Coke, people whenever they take Coke, they can finish a 1 can, they go and repurchase, right? So the logic here was, right, If you are given one sweet, right? If you are given one sweet, now it's lunchtime next, right? If you are given a sweet, it will be really good. It will really freshen your mouth and it will basically give you a bit of sweetness. But if I give you 5 sweets to eat at once, you'll not like it. It is too sugary. So that was the logic of Coke and Pepsi. When you're doing a small quantity, it's smooth as your mouth, but if you're doing large quantity, it irritates, right? So that was the issue with Pepsi and Coke, right? So customer acquisition is basically how do you acquire customers? So you have to have different methods. Then once you acquire the customer, the biggest challenge is retention. How do you keep them? Now in Pepsi's case, Pepsi's retention was poor. They could not basically keep the customer, right? Then they basically made the can smaller. To a certain extent, it worked. Right? So retention, you need to think of different techniques. How do you retain your customer? Acquiring customer is costly. Retention is also costly. Right? But when you do a life cycle mapping of the customer, when the customer stays with you for a longer time, right, that will basically make you profit. Right? So think about it. Right? Then the customer service. Now that comes for retention. You acquire the customer, you need to retain the customer, you need to service the customer. So you need to basically think of how do you service. Now I'm telling this very blankly without knowing your ideas. I think later on we are going to listen to your ideas. It depends on case by case. What idea you have, how your customer acquisition to retention to customer service is going to depend. And also what is the feedback mechanism. Whether the customer has some sort of relationship to come back and tell you, your product is good, great, bad, service is not good. So there should be a channel opened up. That conversation has to happen, right? And the personalization, right? So when you're doing personalization, right, how do you personalize, right? How do you treat different customers, right? Customers would definitely like to know them by their name, right? If somebody is greeted, think of you guys, right? If somebody is calling by your name, you have a bit of a positive mindset, right? That person knows my name, right? So personalization is mostly seen. If you look at banks, you can look at salons. If you go to salon, whoever who did your makeup or anything will remember what they did, right? In boys, of course, when you go for the haircut, they will not remember what cut they cut on you, right? So personalization is that. So you need to basically think of all these elements. How do you acquire the customer? How do you retain the customer? How do you service the customer? And how you get the feedback and personalization, right? Now, I'll take an example of Uber or Pick Me. Let's take a local scenario. How do they acquire customers? Or easy example, Uber Eats. How do they acquire customers? You know, how many of you are doing a mobile app as part of your project? Anybody doing mobile app? Okay, what's the idea? Yeah. Aerophonic. What does that mean? So that is for general public, or is it for a niche, particular user group? Niche market, okay. Anybody who is doing an app for a general public, like Pick Me, Uber, or no? Right. If you're doing such project, you know, hardest part is what? The hardest part. You can build a brilliant app, you can have nice UI, UX, you can have experiences, everything is there. What is the hardest part? Getting your app to somebody's mobile phone. Right? How many apps you have? Everybody has a smartphone. How many apps you have? Roughly? So average, somebody's phone, you will have about 40 apps, right? 35 to 40 apps. Out of that apps, how many apps do you use daily? Not more than 6, 7, 8, right? Not more than 6, 7, 8, right? So for you to get your app into somebody's phone, and at least for him to see it once a week, you have to do a lot of strategic work. So customer acquisition is, if you're doing a mobile app, getting your mobile into somebody's phone, right? Now, how do you retain them, right? So I was asking the question, Uber Eats, right? So they do a lot of other promotions, SMSs, everything to get somebody into the app. Then after that, what they do? How do they retain? They just keep the app going? No, they basically put you promotions, right? At the initial stage, you get 50% off to 25% off to 30% off. They give you promotions. That is to make sure that you interact, right? Then you have these notifications coming up saying, hey, there is offer. There is a donut offer, cupcake offer, right? That is to make sure that the purchasing happens, right? Now, in an app like that, right, getting the app is the first challenge. The second challenge is what? Getting somebody to transact. Because Uber will not earn money if somebody doesn't pay, right? So you need to basically start getting them to pay. So that's why the promotions are pushed, right? And if there is an order delay or anything, refunds, in most of the time, if it is first time, refund is given. No questions asked. If you look at Amazon, if you go to an Amazon and make a first time order, and you make a refund, no questions asked, refund is given. That is to impress you on the customer service. On the first order itself, you want a refund and refund was not given and it was a cumbersome process, you will feel bad about Amazon, right? You will feel bad about it. So that is their service part, right? They will basically provide you immediate refund. Second, third, fifth order, questions will be asked, why you are refunding it, why you ask for this refund, what was the issue, right? But the first one, they don't. That is basically customer service. So you always have, in Uber, you have rating, you have feedback mechanism built in, right? You can tip the guy, you can tip the restaurant, right? And your orders are personalized, right? So you order something, if you start eating rice and curry every day, right? On and off, they will promote you biryani, right? But they always give you rice and curry offers, right? If you don't order for 1 week, they'll push you a notification and ask whether you're hungry at 12 o'clock or 11:30. Right? They'll ask. So much of care, right? So much of care from Uber, right? They would not want you to live without eating, right? So that is basically how you build the relationship with the customer. Right. Now it comes to the channels part, right? How do you establish this, right? Now sales, what do you do? If you wanted to sell your app, so your app is very complicated. How do you intend to sell? Who is your customer? Yeah. Yeah. Niche product, no? Yeah. Who am I going to sell it to? Yeah. So who is your customer? People who are living in apartments, right? So what is your sales channel? How are you going to sell it? So are you going to go to door and knock and say, hey, I have a product, will you buy it? There are people who do, right? There are people who come with these mosquito killing bats. They come door to door and tell and say that we have this product, but they have a bag of products. Then they open up the bag and they start showing different gadgets. So that is door to door sales, right? You might have a different mechanism. You can do couple up. Like now, for example, I'll tell you, travel insurance, right? So the insurance is one of the hardest product to sell because nobody is educated enough about insurance and nobody's first priority is insurance, right? So if you look at travel insurance, generally, unless otherwise a specific country says, for you to travel to this country, you need an insurance, you will not buy, right? Now, one of the most successful travel insurance sales is basically with American Express card. So when you buy the card, automatically insurance is added to the card. So that's a piggyback. You piggyback on somebody and sell, right? You piggyback on somebody and sell. So there are different mechanisms, right? So you need to basically think of what is the channel, how you are going to basically bring, right? There are certain companies who only sell online, right? You can start selling, you can open up probably a cupcake shop. You call it Uber and Uber and Pick Me, right? Uber Eats and Pick Me Food. You can start selling it. So that's the channel. You open up an outlet, that becomes a channel. But with the outlet, you're limited to location, right? So I'll tell you another story. Everybody knows Vade? Everybody knows Vade? Where do you generally get Vade? Do you have a guy here in front? You used to. Is there a cart in the evening which comes and sells in front of the campus? Long time back, there used to be a guy, right? Where do you generally find Vade carts? Where? Near the liquor shops, right? Generally, if you go to a liquor shop, near the liquor shop, you find Vade carts, right? Right? So what is the famous type of Vade you get there? Umbalakada Vade, the smaller one, and you get the Paripu Vade. Ulundu Vade, you don't get it, because Urdu Vade is not used to generally consume with liquor, right? So you get those two type of Vade. Where else you get Vade? Where else you see Vade? Huh? In public transport, trains especially, right? In trains, if it is sometimes in PETA, you get long distance traveling buses, right? So you get, where else? Don't tell me that you have not gone to Golface, right? There are a lot of Vade carts at Golface, right? Sometimes you get in junctions also you get in the evening, right? Now, I'm going to tell you a true story, right? So you think that Vade cart guy is the guy who makes Vade. So this story is from Vattala. So there is one particular guy, right, who makes Vade. His all day job is making Vade. So from Palikota Junction to Vattala, the supply is one guy. Only the cart guy is basically making the sambol and he's displaying and selling, right? So that is his distribution channel, right? There is one Vade guy, right? So Vade is, you wanted to have it hot, right? Little bit hot. You don't want to have frozen kind of Vade, no? Right? But there is one Sri Lankan guy who sells Vade globally. One Sri Lankan guy who sells Vade globally. Any idea? No? So there's a brand called Isso. They have a restaurant also, right? That company is not a restaurant. That company is neither a food producing company, it's a food technology company, food tech, right? So there all the recipes are being made. So they have a specific recipe is made by robots, right? So they have a restaurant in London, and the entire kitchen is fully automated. All the ingredients comes in pack. Their specialty is the ingredient. It comes in the factories in Vattala, they produce it, and they mix it, and they produce all the foods, right? So these guys basically started off with a distribution channel overseas to get the vade. They have the mix, everything. All what you have to do, it's a frozen vade. You take it, you fry it, and they say this time you have to fry it at this temperature. You can have it, right? So that is one distribution, right? Sales channel, right? If you look at most of the string hoppers in Colombo, right? Most of location string hoppers in Colombo is manufactured at one place, right? All the shops, small shops that you see, they only make the curry and sambal and sell it. The distribution channel, right? There are a lot of hidden channels that we may not know, but it's used to distribute, right? So marketing channel, how do you market? What's the best way to market something these days? The logo is there, right? TikTok, social media, right? Facebook is dying. LinkedIn is for certain products. If you look at Instagram to a greater extent, right? But TikTok, right? All the restaurants, everybody is basically selling their location on TikTok, right? They get influencers to go there, have fun, take a video, put a voice, and basically sell it, right? Why TikTok works really well in Sri Lanka? So you need to understand the culture. Why TikTok really works in Sri Lanka? There are certain countries which TikTok is banned. There are certain countries you can't use TikTok. And there are certain countries, if you go to that country, what you see in Sri Lanka is not what you see there. Because TikTok, if you go to China, they have a lot of motivational things which is coming. But in Sri Lanka, what do we get? What do you get? Gossip. Because we are a nation that loves gossip. That is why Gossip Lanka is ranked number 1 in the Google search. Right? We are a gossip nation. So we like to gossip and we like to see what's happening around. So that's the mentality. So you need to understand what marketing channel you should use. Right? If it is for university students, what channel you should use. If it is for school children, what channel you need to use. Right? Based on the channel, you will basically be successful to deliver your message. So we spoke about distribution and sales. Then communication, what channels you are going to use, right? Now if PicMe had a call center, they have a call center, right? Without having the app to basically interact, they will be bombarded. The most hated call center in Sri Lanka is what? Now they have corrected it. Most hated call center in Sri Lanka. Go and do a Google search, they'll tell you. I don't need to tell it. Dialogue. Because every time if you have a problem with the bill or anything, you call them, no, you put it to wait time for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Right? That is the most hated one. So now what they have done? They have given a self-care app and a chatbot. So at least some of the channels will basically now get resolved through them. Right? There was an airline, recently I used to take a ticket, where did I go? Brunei, right? That airline doesn't have a call center. Only helpline is chat. Whatever you want to do, you have to tell the chatbot. It will decide. When finally chatbot can't decide, then they'll say, oh, agent will call you back, right? So that's basically how your communication channel. So you need to understand how do you establish a communication channel. Do you want to basically shift it to a digital channel? Chatbots are there, right? Make use of them. It doesn't need always to be call, right? Based on your service, you have to decide. Then the partnerships. So partnerships is very important at the startup stage because that is the cheapest channel who is going to bring you volume, right? You partner with somebody, they will talk about your product. You partner with somebody, they will open up a different door, which you can't open on your own, right? So partnerships is very important think about how do you basically manage your partnerships, how do you basically introduce different partners to talk about good things about you and also get the feedback. Right. Chamatka, what's the plan? What's the time? Okay. I don't want to be standing in between your lunch and this session. So let's break for lunch. And what time you have to come back? 1:45. Okay. So 1:45, good? So if everybody is not present at 1:45, I will feel that I was doing a very boring and bad job. That's why you didn't turn up at 1:45. So with that note, I'll end up. So it proves that my lecture has been really boring. Audience, I lost the audience. Okay, so next part what we are going to explain to you is the key players, right? So when you consider any startup venture, right, you have stakeholders, right? You have stakeholders. So you start initially with the stakeholders within your team. You will have team members, right? Then you will also have, if you are enrolled in a program like Spark, there are stakeholders, right? Your customers become stakeholders. Your suppliers become stakeholders, right? There are multiple layers of stakeholders, right? Now, when you plot your stakeholders, you can plot it into a round like this. You can see the internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, and secondary, right? Now, for example, if you are basically doing a business and you're earning something, probably at one day you have to pay taxes. That becomes a secondary part because you're not directly getting involved with them. But if you look at your suppliers, your service providers, all of them becomes external stakeholders, right? So you can plot them based on where they stand. You can plot them. This is very important for you to understand because in between stakeholders, there are different conversations which is going to take place. Your team, you will have daily conversations, right? Your suppliers, you may have a weekly conversation. Your service providers, sometimes once a month, right? So you can plot that conversation to understand what type of importance that you have to give for each stakeholder. Then the other part is stakeholder mapping, where we do a 2x2 matrix, where based on interest and influence, you map them, right? Interest and influence. So the topmost corner, right-hand side topmost corner, is people whom you have to manage, right? If somebody is going to give you money to run your startup, should that person be lightly informed or should that person be intactfully informed? You have to keep him informed, right? Because you have to get the money. So he needs to know your progress. So that is where you have the owners, shareholders, management, board of directors. If government regulations applies, government regulation, major customers, investors, everybody comes in highest interest, highest influence bracket, right? So this is for you to understand whom you should be basically looking at talking and whom you should be basically managing. Then less influence but high interest, you have to completely keep them informed what you're going to do, right? Spark, this is a competition which has certain amount of value with the faculty, right? They have to be kept informed, right? You need to probably look at, if it is a startup which is doing employees, community, unions, right? Then you have NGOs and advisory groups. So all those people has to be kept informed. Then the other part is you have high influence, but you have less interest. They had to be basically managed, right? You have to basically keep them with your scope where you will need to have conversations going. Then less interest, less influence, is basically information. So you keep them informed, right? So this way, you can basically understand who is your stakeholders around you in your project and what kind of relationships you have to maintain with them. Right. Am I doing this? Okay, so I will come to Blue Ocean and Purple Ocean.
At the back. Okay, cool. Okay, so after stakeholder analysis, we are coming into customer segmentation. I think I referenced to this point in a previous slide when we did the morning part of the session, when we did the value canvas actually. So this is where we go into detail about customer segmentation. First thing is, like I said, you need to group the different types of customers you have. For example, if it's Uber, like we mentioned in the morning also, you have, if it's just an Uber ride, you have the people who ride the vehicles and the drivers. If it's Uber delivery, then you have the restaurants, the riders, and the people who are ordering the food. Likewise, you take each customer segment and then you can do these two exercises. There's the customer persona and then the customer segmentation table, right? So there are technically four parts. You have geographic, psychographic, behavioral, and demographic. According to each of these baskets, you have to really try and understand that particular customer segment, right? So when it comes to geographic, very simple. What's the country, continent, region, state, city, all of that. If you're primarily targeting Sri Lanka first, then obviously it has to be Sri Lanka. For example, the food cart scenario, that becomes very specific, right? Because it's Sri Lanka and it's Moratuwa right in front of the Moratuwa campus. In terms of geographic, it gets really specific. So depending on your service or product, it'll change. It can be broad or specific. And then psychographic. This is one of the most important elements. Your target audience, what kind of psychographic characteristics are there, like social class, lifestyle, values, personality, and digital media presence. So these things will decide your price point, right? If you have a really expensive food cart, like a meal is 1,500, nobody's going to buy here, right? So depending on what social class, depending on the media literacy, the way you approach the customer completely changes from your product to the marketing and the way you communicate with the customer. So for someone who is not very good with social media, no amount of social media posts are going to help, right? Like for example, even in this food cart situation, the best way of getting people to know about it is just parking it here. Not really social media posts, because that's not the kind of social media posts students will usually come across, right? And then another very important thing is behavioral. I think this you obviously already understand the behavior of your customer when you do the value canvas itself. You look at the likes, dislikes, pain points, and then the habits and loyalty. What kind of things make customers loyal? If it's a food cart, consistently having good quality food. If the first day the food was so good and the second day the sauce is missing, it's not fresh, then customer loyalty will be gone. Or if at first you give it at really cheap prices, but the moment people start coming in, you increase, then that's also a problem. You have to look at what really makes your customer loyal, right? And also how they pay, that's important. Is it usually a cash option, or is it a transfer? What do they prefer? Because that has to be available. And their knowledge, awareness level, all of that comes under behavioral. And finally, you have demographic, right? Again, this also helps you to design your service or product and also design the marketing and go-to-market strategies as well. When you talk about demographic, there are two types. It could be B2B and B2C, just like how we did the marketing funnel, right? If it's B2C, we're talking just individuals. So it's age, gender, occupation, income, very personal things. But if it's B2B, you can't really talk about age, gender of a company, right? Then it's about what's the industry, where in the business cycle are they? Are they a startup? If so, they might not be able to afford a very expensive solution. Or are they an enterprise level company? Then they'll go for security, but they'd be paying more, or higher quality, and they'd pay more, right? Their financial and how many employees are there, or what kind of revenue or customer base they have, all of that's important for demographic if it's B2B. So if you have both the business models, you have to do this in both angles, right? And then for whatever that you figure out on this left-hand side, we draw something called a customer persona. It's something, technically it's fiction, right? You imagine your perfect customer and write down, oh, this is what my customer looks like. Sometimes when you actually write down customer personas, you put a name, a fake name, and then age, and then you talk about what social class, what kind of income, what kind of habits. So you describe all of that in one sheet of paper, your ideal customer. Right? You can do that for B2B and B2C as well if you have both models. And depending on that customer persona, only you decide the design, the customer experience, and even the marketing. Because obviously different customers that come to you, they're different. You can't personalize every little part of your experience. So you have to have one fictional person that captures majority of your customers, so that whatever you do can fit to that mold or address that large group. So that fictional character you make to fit majority of the customers is what we call the customer persona. It might seem like a silly exercise, but it really helps when you think of marketing, outreach, and just going out to the customer. Right, any questions here? Oh, good. Right, so at this point, we have completed all the components you need for the BMC, the business model canvas. Like I said, in the base board, there's 2 more components, assessment and growth, in addition to what is there in the business model canvas. So now we are moving on to those 2 parts. First, we have assessment. When you establish a business, you have to constantly assess whether you're in the right path. Now, at the beginning, we set goals, visions, missions, right? If you don't assess yourself and the business, how would you know where you're going? So, continuous assessment is very important. For employees and for operations, you can have performance matrices. Have you heard of KPIs? Key Performance Index, right? So you give everyone targets and everybody is supposed to hit those targets. That's one way of assessment, right? It could be sales volume. It could be customer satisfaction or testimonials in that sense. So that will give you an assessment of how well your service or product is doing. It could be order fulfillment time, employee efficiency. There are lots of different areas that you can measure, but you need to figure out what are the most important things for your business and then start measuring them from early on. And then another thing that you can measure, not necessarily from KPI, is financial health. No matter whatever is going well, if your financials are not going well, that is not a business, right? To make it sustainable, financials have to be on point. So to measure your financial health, we use a set of criteria. It could be profit margins. It could be cash flow. It could be break-even analysis. Sometimes when you start a business, at the first year maybe, you won't make profit, because you have put in so much money into the product or the service, into building it, that for some time you'll have to run at a loss. And eventually it has to catch up, And when you come to the point where your cost is equal to the revenue, that we call the break-even point. So before you start a business, it's important to at least estimate what that break-even point is. Otherwise, you'll be sinking in money, but nothing's coming out of it. You need to decide how long can you put in money and go without profit before you start a business. So figuring that out is important. That's why we do a break-even analysis. And after that, it has to be all profit. That's the idea behind it. And also cost management, which we covered extensively, right? So that's your financial health. And then there is risk management. Assessment is not there just only to check whether you're in the right track, but it also helps to prevent things going wrong in the future. That's where risk management comes in. So it could be operational risks, it could be market risks, it could be health and safety compliances, or financial risks. A way you can identify these risks early on, we are not covering this part, this is just for your reference. Have you all heard of the SWOT analysis? Okay, so SWOT, okay? You can go and search it up. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Threats are external threats that can come to your business. So looking at that, you can look at the risks that can come. And there's another framework called PESTEL analysis. PESTEL. So political, environmental, social, technological, economical, and legal. Right? All of these external factors that is happening in the country, that is happening in the world, that can affect your business. That way, your risk management and assessment will be easy. Now, if the company is going through the country is going through a recession, it might affect your business. If there's trade regulations imposed, your supply chain might be at risk. So, doing these analyses at least once in a while, and actually listening to some news and knowing what's going out there will help you mitigate the risks before it really becomes a problem for your business. Right, so that's what we do in risk management. And with that, we are done with the assessment part. For the last part, which might also be the most important, that's growth. I once again invite Kanishka.
Right. So, how many of you have heard about red ocean and blue ocean strategy? Or rather, there is a book called Red Ocean and Blue Ocean. No? You have your phones? Can you search? I want you to search and tell me what it is. Does it make any sense? What is the blue ocean and what is the red ocean? Where do you get a red ocean? So red ocean is basically a bloodbath. That means you have already competitors and you are entering into that competition, right? When you look at blue ocean, that means there is nobody there. You're basically entering into it. Right? So which one is easy? Blue ocean or red ocean? Blue ocean is easy because there is no fight for you, right? But if you're entering into a red ocean, right? So I'll give you an example, right? So how many ride-hailing or taxi apps are there in Sri Lanka? How many taxi apps are there in Sri Lanka? What are the taxi apps you know? Tell me one. Uber. Pick me. Uber told already. Helago. Only 3? Any other taxi apps you know that more than Helago, Uber or Pick Me? Kangaroo, Dilango, Tuk Tuk. What else? Right? So if you look at on Play Store, you have more than 35 taxi apps in Sri Lanka. But you only know 3, mostly. Mostly 3, right? 3 or 4, maximum 5. More than 5 you would not know, right? So I said no, to getting into somebody's phone is a challenge. If you're doing an app, getting into somebody's phone is a challenge, right? So now, Helago came very recently. What strategy did Helago use? Blue ocean or red ocean? It's a red ocean because already the market is there, known customers are there, but they entered into a red ocean, right? So they have their ecosystem, they have the customer base, but they entered into red ocean, right? So for example, if you look at blue ocean, right? When Uber Eats came, right? How was delivery done? Food delivery. How was food delivery done? McDonald's had their own bikes. Chinese Dragon has their own bikes. KFC had their own bikes. All the restaurants had their own bikes. So they came into the market and they created a universal platform. They hired riders and started onboarding merchants, right? So that was a blue ocean because nobody else has done. There had been a couple of people. There was a company called Grasshoppers, and there was, I can't remember, there was another one more app. They tried to do it, but they didn't have that full works like Uber Eats, right? So Pick Me basically piggybacked on that. But Uber Eats came to the world first, right? When they came, it was a complete blue ocean, right? But Helago is coming into red ocean. So that's basically, that's it, right? So when you come into a blue ocean, what are the advantages you have? So in a blue ocean, you have to be fast because your idea can be copied, right? Somebody else can copy, right? If they have the muscle power, they can copy it, right? So you have to be fast, right? And you have to basically look at a lot of opportunities, right? Now, Pick Me also started blue ocean strategy. What was their blue ocean part? They also went in a blue ocean strategy. They started with ride hailing, then moved into blue ocean strategy. Probably 4 years back. During COVID, when nobody was delivering, they started with Satosa and started delivering that one bag of items. Nobody was delivering, so they started delivering, right? So that was a blue ocean, right? The after effects of that blue ocean opportunity was they're in grocery delivery, they're also in pharmaceutical delivery, right? They do roughly about 10,000 prescriptions a day. One pharmacy in Sri Lanka will not get 10,000 prescriptions, right? So Pick Me itself, if you look at, if they started a pharmaceutical store, they will be the biggest pharmacy. 10,000 prescriptions a day, right? So that is basically moving on into, right? So you don't need to basically, you can start off with a red ocean, but you can move on to blue ocean. Blue ocean is more promising and it gives you a lot of things. Like I took the example of ISO, right? If you really have gone to that restaurant, there are dishes, everything with prawns, ISO. They have the curry, they have the fried version, all that, ISO vade, all that. The variation is rice or roast pan or roti. right? So that's a completely, like, we have a lot of food stalls, right? But they did a niche. Same thing, Jagro. If you take Jagro, we're a niche market, right? Strawberries. Probably about 20 years, 25 years, Jagro was not there. And strawberry, we knew strawberry, it was an expensive thing, but we never knew that strawberries could basically run a restaurant. Today, if you look at Jagro, they have restaurants with strawberries. So you can have a variation of items being done on strawberries and become a restaurant, right? So that's basically a blue ocean. Everybody has dessert corner shops are there, right? You have ice cream parlors too, different dessert shops, right? But these guys specifically went on strawberries and made a range of items on strawberries, right? So that's how you basically look at. Any examples of other red oceans or blue oceans that you know of, or are the blue oceans? Anything which has come unique? Now, if you look at the AI tools, now that is a completely a red ocean. In? Which one? Graphic card, NVIDIA. Yes, yeah, NVIDIA, you can take an example. Complete blue ocean. Right. One of the tech companies is Dell. Right. If you look at Dell, how they started, now the strategy has changed. Right. Dell was started, you can't buy Dell from a retail shop. You can only do online orders. Right. And Dell, every part is compatible with all the versions. So if you take a Dell CD-ROM, any version of laptops, it can plug. Right? So that's a technology company that they started. Right? Spotify, probably would have heard about music. Right? So that's a complete thing, right? Because music industry had been there for a long time. Right? Everybody was basically focusing on albums. Right? Everybody was focusing on albums. So you have collection of songs and put into album. But how did these guys break the market? They got sued. There were so many legal cases against them because they were basically copying an album and creating a digital version. So album owners were basically having court cases against them. Right? How many of you know the Spotify story? There is a Netflix series on Spotify. 6 episodes. Go and watch that. It's a nice story, right? It's a reverse order. So you'll see at the end, right, the whole concept of winning this battle against copyright was done by the lawyer, legal officer. She has a fight with the founders. She's also a founding member. They have a fight. And in that fight, right, she breaks a necklace. So that was with pebbles, right? All the pebbles start going in the ground. And she started collecting them and putting it back. Then only she realized, okay, the copyright issue is with the albums, but if I take individual songs and if I ask him to basically create his own album, there is no copyright. Right? So that's how Spotify basically came out of the legal battle. Before Spotify, there was another company who did the same thing. Right? So that you can learn how you basically strategize on Blue Ocean, because Blue Ocean will give you a lot of opportunities. That's a market where somebody is not there yet, right? That can basically be an opportunity, right? So you have to basically find out in the respective areas you are doing, what will be the blue ocean part, where somebody has not thought about, right? So if you look at PickMe, PickMe is not a ride-hailing app anymore. It's a mobility solutions company, right? What is the difference between e-commerce, all these e-commerce sites, Takastu, Wow.lk, to all these guys, and Daraz? They went on a complete blue ocean. What's the difference? What's the strategy of Daraz? What is the strategy? You think Daras is the same e-commerce company like others? I hope everybody knows Sunday Polar. You know Sunday Polar? Market. That is what Daras did. They did not do an e-commerce company where traditionally you talk to suppliers, bring the stock it at your e-commerce store and start selling online. So that is what Takas did. Takas is no more there. That is what Wow did, no more there. What they did was they created a marketplace. So marketplace, the stock is not belong to Daras. Stock is somebody else who is participating in the marketplace. So like Sunday Polar what happens is if you go to Delkanda Polar, you have the Polar marked area, you have people bring their items and they start selling. So whoever is managing the Polar, they will take a cut or rather rent out of it, right? And everybody knows Delkanda Polar Sunday or Saturday? Sunday, right? Everybody knows Delkanda Polar, people will go there. So Daras did the same thing. They created the platform, they advertised, they ran promotions, everything. They started getting people, 3.5 million users, active users, and then they bought sellers, right? Now, if you take this water bottle, if I want to sell this water bottle in Daras, how much of money the Daras will take out of this? They charge me being the seller for me to be in the platform 10%. And they charge for the transaction 2%, so 12%. Is that all? So you're ordering the bottle. From you, they'll charge the delivery fee, right? So I pay 12%, you'll be charged the delivery fee. What else? Now this bottle is a common bottle, no? Right? So this bottle, somebody else also might have it. Right? For me to push this bottle on the platform as the premium water bottle, I need to advertise in Daras. So there is advertising revenue Daras will make. Right? Now what happens? This bottle will be picked up by a delivery guy. I need to pick this with the Daras packing label, put the QR code and give it to him. For that packing material also they'll charge. Right? And when is the Daras sale? You don't know Daras sale? 11/11, right? When it comes 11/11, what happens is, they'll say, okay, you give further discount, we will put your position, this product in the premium homepage. That also I have to pay. From that also they'll learn. And they'll go to the banks and say, hey, look, give us 35%, 40% discount. From that also they will make money. And they'll tell bank to put your logo there, pay us for the banner. From that also they'll make money. Now what happens? All the other e-commerce companies, product sale and a margin out of the product. Now these guys disrupted the market, right? That is a blue ocean. Right? That's how the blue ocean happens, right? Okay, so that's read the book. That's a good book for you to understand strategy. Pivoting, right? When to pivot and when to basically start thinking of why you should pivot, right? When to pivot? When you get the marketing feedback. Your product is your own baby, right? You will fall in love with the product, right? Now, what is the danger side of your product when you fall in love with your product? You don't want to change. Your customer is not you, right? Your customer is not you. You have to basically think of your customer's point of view. So you need to go and get your product out there and ask for marketing feedback. So they will basically start saying, oh, this is not good. This is not what we want. We will not use it. Right? If you change this, we will use it. But that is valuable feedback. Because at the end of the day, for your product, you're not going to pay, right? Somebody else, you're expecting them to pay. So when you get the market feedback, you have to change your product. Competition. Right? Competition is heavy, right? So generally I say, you can basically build any product, right? And that product success is based on your team. Right? Anybody can copy your product, but not the team. Anybody can copy your idea, anybody can copy your product, but not the team. So the success depends on the team, right? So you need to look at the competition, where the competition is moving. If the competition is moving, you need to basically think of pivoting and see what you can do, right? There are companies who did not pivot and they have gone for bankruptcy. Many companies who had looked at the competition, didn't care about the competition, they are no more here. Right. Revenue challenges. Sometimes your business model might not work. It might not work, right? You think that people are going to pay, but people are not willing to pay, right? So best example is Viber and, you know Viber? No, never used Viber? Viber and WhatsApp. What is Viber's business model? What is Viber's business model? Bottom, what is the business model? You have advertisements at the end of the call. What is WhatsApp business model? What is WhatsApp business model? No revenue. Now they have revenue because Facebook took over. No revenue. What did they do? They build it to pinch somebody big and that they would buy it off, right? Can you figure out how much WhatsApp was sold for? Search. How much WhatsApp sold for? How much Facebook paid to buy WhatsApp? $19 billion USD, right? Multiplied by 300. To get a Sri Lankan context, huh? 6 trillion. 6 trillion, right? Now, you guys are expert on WhatsApp, no? Do you think that, now this was sold by a long time back, right? Do you think that 6 trillion is required for you to build something like WhatsApp? Do you think you require 6 trillion rupees to build something like WhatsApp? Probably, let's say a couple of billions? Not even billion, right? You would not want a billion to build WhatsApp, right? Built from day number 1 to sell. Right? Built from day number 1, right? Why did Facebook buy WhatsApp? What was the reason for Facebook to buy WhatsApp? They had their own platform, right? Messenger was there. Why did they want to buy WhatsApp? Because WhatsApp was rapidly taking over the messaging space. Simplicity was the key thing, right? They were taking over the messaging space, right? So Facebook got afraid that one day WhatsApp could buy over Facebook, right? There is a history. History is long time back, right? Facebook went to Kodak for an investment pitch. And Kodak said, no, this digital era, we don't think. We have machines which can be basically provide the rest of the year's services, and we will not be interested on digital, right? Did you know Kodak got bankrupted because of Facebook? What was Kodak's biggest business? What is Kodak's business basically? They had film rolls, cameras, and photo printing paper. Now, how many of you have printed your last album, birthday album? Right. Today, weddings also you don't print. Right. I got married about probably 15 years back. I haven't still printed my wedding album. Because digital copy is enough, right? But you will definitely have your friends celebrating birthday pictures on Facebook, Instagram, right? So Kodak ran into complete bankruptcy on their paper business. Right? So that's how things change, right? So you need to understand, if you have revenue challenges, when to pivot, and technological advantage. If the technology, today we're not expecting any of you guys to do coding from scratch. AI does it, right? Why do you want to reinvent the wheel? You make sure you do it right way, right? You don't need to, right? There will be no jobs for software engineers in future. You will still have jobs for prompt engineers, not for software engineers, right? QA is also going to get vanished away, right? So technology. So if you can get it done in 10 minutes, why do you want to basically waste 1 month of effort, right? So that's how the technology changes, right? Type of pivoting, you can do product pivoting if the product doesn't match. You can do market pivoting. If this market doesn't work, it can work somewhere else. Business model, especially when your revenue doesn't work. And then technology. If the technology doesn't work, you can pivot, right? So part and parcel of the startup game is pivoting. You have to be ready from day number 1 to pivot, right? Chamatka, I think that's all, right? Yes.
Basically, now you guys just have to go back, work with your team, and complete the baseboard and the BMC. The BMC will directly be very useful for your presentation in the finals, in the presentation stage. Same thing with the value canvas. So hope you guys got something good out of the session. Thank you for joining.
So as we have come to the end of today's session, I would now like to take a moment to sincerely thank our incredible speakers, Mr. Kanish Kabirmunde and Ms. Chamatka Jayasekar, and all the other speakers from SquareHub. And to all the participants who are here with us today, thank you all very much for coming here and participating to this session. And before you all leave, let's take a group photo to remember this session forever. So I would really appreciate if you could come forward to the stage maybe to take a photo.